After the conclusion of every WNBA season, another season starts. No, not the playoffs. WNBA firing season. And so far, three WNBA coaches have paid the price for their team's poor performance. My question is, are more coaches to be fired? And who else might come on the coaching carousel? Is Stephanie White potentially leaving the Sun to go to another team? Before we start, if you enjoy the content, then please like and subscribe. Now let's get into this. So Teresa Weatherspoon, Tanisha Wright, and Kurt Miller, they are all gone from their respective teams. I have done videos on Teresa Weatherspoon and on Kurt Miller. Check those out if you'd like. I haven't talked about Tanisha Wright's firing. In a nutshell, it looks like to me Dan Padover is looking to buy more time in his rebuild project. It's year 3. They are an 8th seed that got eliminated straight away by the New York Liberty. They put up a little bit of a fight, but this firing of Wright smells of, hey, I got the roster right. I gave you pieces, and you just haven't put it together. We'll get a different coach into the mix, and it will be right as rain. Now, as pointed out during the press conference, Ryan Howard was out before the All-Star break, missed a number of games as well. Their big free agent acquisition, Jordan Canada, she missed a lot of time with a hand injury. So is it fair to put the blame on Wright? He acknowledged that sport was not fair, and this is often the case. But man, yeah, it doesn't seem real fair to me. The other thing is, how good was this roster? When I look at it, I saw them maybe as a 6 seed, maybe. Yeah, it's about as if everything would have come together perfectly, which did not happen. Maybe they could have gotten into the top 4, but man, I didn't see that happening. I thought the top 4 would be Seattle. The surpriser that moved up was Minnesota, obviously. But with Atlanta, I thought 8th seed was about where they should have landed if you were going to have Ryan Howard out for a number of games. Like, they've got other players. They have Alicia Gray, who's a bit up and down. Tina Charles is at the back end of her career. She can still get it done, but it's not a clear direction, this team. Are they a rebuild, or what are they trying to do? And I think that's a GM issue, as it's not real clear what direction they're going in, and I don't think that's a coach issue. And I suspect this firing helps by the GM more time to go to management and say, once I get the right coach in here, yeah, they'll put all these wonderful pieces that I'm going to put together into place. I will give Padover credit for this. At least he held a press conference. He had the guts to hold a press conference and take the questions, unlike the Sparks and Chicago Sky. Chicago Sky, their GM, Pagliola, he had to answer questions when they did their groundbreaking ceremony for their practice facility. And it's the classic not direct smear campaign, just anonymous sources and sort of speculation, just saying there were issues in the background, but we're going to keep that in house. The reporter Annie Constable, she had a piece saying they were concerned about getting free agents because Spoon wasn't holding some players accountable. It seemed to implicate to me Angel Reese and Kennedy Carter. Maybe they had free reign, and other players weren't happy about that. But it's hard. It was just a very non-specific article. It was like I say, it's the classic Boston Red Sox after they fire a manager. Reports come out about all the issues in the background that weren't reported, and you know that's being leaked by the team. And maybe all three of these coaches deserve to be fired. I wasn't in the building and knowing the issues they were having. But to me, just looking at results, there are two coaches that still have their job, which I thought they were more in danger of being fired than Weatherspoon and Kurt Miller, as they were in obvious rebuilds. I didn't expect the Chicago Sky to make the playoffs. I thought fighting for an 8th seed all season was a good job by her. Same thing with Miller. He did his job. He got ping pong balls for the LA Sparks. The one that I thought, or the two coaches I thought that should be or were likely in danger, were Latricia Trammell of the Dallas Wings and Noelle Quinn of the Seattle Storm. And these two still might get fired. It's unclear at this stage. With Quinn, I thought she was going to pay the price for not getting Seattle past the first round in the playoffs. In addition, when she did have a loaded team, well, she had a loaded team this year, obviously, with the free agents of Nneka Ogwumike and Skylar Diggins-Smith, and then they brought in Gabby Williams. So they gave her the pieces, and I thought she would have to pay the price for not getting them past the first round, even though their first round matchup, a tough matchup versus the Las Vegas Aces. But even after the Olympics, this team did not improve, and I could see them making a case, hey, Jewel Lloyd has always been a good shooter from outside. We get a new coach in with a different scheme. That'll fix up her shot. Same thing with Diggins Smith, maybe. Organizations always make that sort of argument or justification to themselves. Once we do this, we get this player that's not good for this organization. We'll get them in our atmosphere and they'll flourish. And sometimes they're right in this situation. Or we'll throw a new mix of coach into our organization and that will stir this pot better and we will get a good result. Now with Trammell and the Dallas Wings, I suspect she has been saved by the Greg Bibb history of firing coaches, which includes Fred Williams, Brian Agler, Vicky Johnson. So he's taken a few scalps, so it's not surprising that he's not keen to fire Trammell, as eventually questions will be asked about why can't he hire a coach and keep a coach. Now Trammell supporters would say, hey, her team was decimated by injuries, with Satu Sabli being out, as well as Howard being out at the start of the season with a foot injury. But I'm sure Vicky Johnson would say, hey, I lost Arike Ogumawale. I still made the playoffs featuring Marina Mabry. We won our first ever playoff game versus the Sun. And Greg Bibb showed me no mercy. He showed me the door. They brought in Trammell, who was going to fix their defense. And then Trammell's come in, and Dallas has had the worst defense in the WNBA. Teams shoot 47% from the field when going against the Dallas Wings. That is the worst in the league. And if Trammell keeps her job, great. I don't have anything against Trammell. I don't want any of these coaches to lose their job. She's a fine person. She seems nice in her interviews. I'm just trying to point out that oftentimes the rationale or reasons teams give for firing their coaches, it's inconsistent at best. And more often than not, changing your coach won't make a difference, as winning in the WNBA is based on talent, and these teams have roster issues, not coaching issues, at least for the coaches that have been fired so far. And that leads me into Stephanie White. So the rumors were Ann Constable reported that she was looking to get out of the Sun, or she was likely not going to return to the Sun. It's since been reported that she has 1 year left on her contract, so teams could potentially trade for her if she's looking to get out, or the Sun want to get rid of her. And the Chicago fan base and Indiana Fever fan base, the fans got excited by this, which I find interesting because Kurt Miller is now also in the mix for potentially the Chicago Sky coaching job. If the Sky hire him, I think there will be grumbles. But essentially, Kurt Miller and Stephanie White are pretty much the same coach in terms of their resume. When Kurt Miller left the Sun, he had a winning percentage of 61%. Stephanie White currently has a winning percentage of 62%. Kurt Miller got the Sun to the WNBA Finals with the same roster. Stephanie White was able to get the Sun to the semifinals, but not to the finals. So again, I think coaching is a little bit overrated. And obviously, the question for the Sun is, can you win a championship with that core group of Thomas and Bonner, or is Thomas shooting such a liability that limits your ability to win a championship with that roster? Now it's over to you. Do you think, like me, coaching is often overrated as well? Of the coaches fired, who do you think deserved to be fired? Like if you had your power listing of coaches that should be fired from the 24 season, who would you have, including coaches that are still coaching? Do you think Trammell or Quinn should be 1, 2, and then potentially Weatherspoon, and following that, Tanisha Wright and Kurt Miller? That would be my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What is your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Thanks a lot for watching. Have a great night.